We're visiting today with country music singer, songwriter, and an old friend of mine, James Otto. We haven't seen each other in a minute, but man, it's good to see your face.
Well, you too, darling. It's been a long time.
It has. But man, you've been busy. So let's start off talking a little bit about, I know that you've come out with your own version of Texas Hold'em, which, and I know I'm partial, but it's way better than the
Well,
original.
thank you. You know what? In my wildest imagination, I never dreamed that I would be covering a Beyonce song, but here we are.
But I feel like the feedback for you has been really good because there's a lot of us that are, diehard country music fans. And you've always kind of walked the line because you're kind of a soul singer, but it's interesting now what people will say. Oh, well, that's not country. Well, they didn't think Ronnie Millsap was country a few years ago either, right?
Well, absolutely right. Yeah, I call what I do country soul. I've always mixed that into what I do. Just got started loving you as country soul song. It's got that soulful groove and the vocal. It's all about country soul, and I've always drawn from people like Ronnie Millsap and Travis Tritt and others that are bringing more of a soulful or southern rock kind of sound. And I mean, Chris Stapleton today is killing it with country soul.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into your new music, let's talk a little bit about your background because I know a lot of folks and ag radio may be saying, well, Casey, why are we talking to James Otto today? But James Otto has an ag background too, don't you?
Oh yeah, I grew up on a 700-acre farm in the middle of North Dakota, and that was my entire childhood. I really didn't know any kind of city living until outside of going to Fargo and being in Fargo, North Dakota, which was the big city compared to where we were at. This place that I'm from is called Findlay, North Dakota, and actually we live about 8 miles outside the city. On this little farm, and I spent most of my childhood there with my grandparents and my mom.
They put you to work.
Oh man, are you kidding me? Yeah, of course.
Well, getting back to Texas Hold'em, I know that you've been playing music all your life. What did you start like at the age of 2?
Yeah, man, I was singing. My mom said since I was in the cradle, basically. And then they just couldn't shut me up from there. And then I started, I found a guitar like when I was young, and then my mom rented a fiddle for me, and I took lessons at school because it's the only instrument that they had any lessons for at school. So I played fiddle for a couple years. And yeah, I mean, my whole life has basically been centered around music ever since. I've been obsessed with music since childhood.
So when you hear Beyonce's Texas Hold'em, what makes you say, you know what? I could do that.
Honestly, the funniest thing about that is that the whole thing started as me saying, well, it doesn't sound, because there was so much hate going around for it, right? I saw all of these things going around about everybody hating on it. I was like, well, it doesn't really sound that much different or less country than half of the things that I was hearing on the radio, which was, I'm not sure who that was a slam on, but it wasn't Beyonce.
Yeah,
And so I was like, well, if I did it, this is what it would sound like. And I just kind of took some different elements and did it in the exact same key, the exact same tempo as her. Took a few of the elements that she put in, and then added like some wailing guitar, and then some, that wailing-esque kind of vibe that to the guitar, and then it has more like a Johnny Cash kind of delivery in the vocal, and it definitely brought it more into what country listeners would think of as a country song and sounding like a country song. And it was really kind of an argument online about what is and what isn't country. You tell me, what makes a song country, what makes it not a country song. And since I make my whole entire living writing and singing country songs, I feel like I have a pretty good line on what is and what isn't.
absolutely. And it's also, I think anybody's always going to love it when you hit those low notes, right? Because any country
Oh
music
yeah,
fan loves those, right?
we get down in that Trace Adkins range.
That's right. Well, you do have
Yeah.
new music coming out. So we'll Self-Made Man, it's Self-Made Fool, excuse me, is the new album,
Yes.
but is
Yes.
Texas Hold'em going to be on there?
No.
Okay.
It's more of just a single release. We did it for fun, and like I said, it was never meant to necessarily get released, but the reaction to it when I posted it on Facebook after this silly little conversation I had about it, the reaction to it was so crazy that I was like, well, let's just finish this little version I did of and put it up. and it blew up. And so we finished the song, put up a video for it, and here we are. Now we're talking about it, and it gives me an excuse to be able to go out and talk about my new record, which is called "Self-Made Fool," which is the title cut of the record, which is a trio song that I did with Jamie Johnson and Randy Houser. A song that I'm really excited about.
How could that not be great? I mean, how could that not
Oh
be the
man.
best song ever?
Well, two of my favorite voices of all time for sure, and two of my favorite people. So it was, I wrote the song and I got done with it, and I was like, man, this sounds like it could be like a friends kind of song, getting together and kind of trash talking and talking about the things they've been through, and that's exactly what that song is about. And I can't wait for people to hear it.
Well, and you've written with several times with Jamie Johnson and had a huge hit with In Color. And I know you and
Yeah.
Randy Houser have been friends for a long time, and you've written some stuff with him. So
Yep.
how has, but the strange thing, we talked about Texas Hold'em not being on this album, but the way people release music now is completely different than how it used to be.
Yeah, it's kind of a singles game anymore.
Yeah.
You just release songs, individual songs, and um what I want to do, and it's still up for debate on how to do it, because we do release a single and then drop another single like 8 weeks later, and it's a totally different game than the old game of releasing music. What I want to do, I think, is to release a few singles and then drop the vinyl of the entire album. We'll sell the entire vinyl, and eventually the entire record will be up on streaming services. But it's still, all of this is up for discussion and how we do it. Marketing is completely different for music anymore, so it's just kind of a strange world. I have an entire record cut. In fact, I have almost two entire records cut and in the can and ready to release, and I'll be dropping new music about every 8 weeks. So in a couple more weeks, we'll be releasing the first single off of my Self-Made Fool album.
Talk to us a little bit about how you write music. Are you somebody
Sure.
that likes to write you write all of your own music, but how do you decide when you're writing with someone, when you're writing solo, and how that's going to work out?
It's interesting. You don't know, honestly. You just don't. I try to show up with the same enthusiasm every day, no matter what I'm doing, and try to write whatever energy is in the room that day. If there's a good vibe floating in the room, we may write an up tempo or a kind of groovy song. Or if somebody's going through something, when we all talk about it, songwriting sessions end up being kind of like therapy. It's for the first 45 minutes or an hour of your get together, it's usually just talking, and then hopefully along that conversation an idea comes out, and you hear about what's going on in somebody's life, and that sparks a song. And that's what I like to do, is I like to capture the energy that's in the room at that moment. I think Willie Nelson said it best. It's like catching a radio wave, right? There's a energy in the air, and you got to put your antenna up and capture what's there and write it down at that moment, because it won't be the same a couple hours from then. So you try to get what you have in the room with you at that moment, and tell the truth as much as you can about the situation you're in, and hopefully that turns into a great song.
Creatively, for you, what's harder, performing or writing music?
Well, performing is certainly it comes with a lot of being on the stage is the best part of the day when you're playing music, right? It's the traveling and being away, and the airplanes, trains, and buses that you have to take to get to places, and hotel rooms, and all of the travel and everything else, it takes the wear and tear on you. That's the stuff that beats you up. But the time on stage is some of my favorite time that I get. I mean, you get a chance to play those songs that you've been building up and working on, and see how people react to them. And that's the proof that's in the pudding, right? I mean, you do your best, you put everything you got into the music you made, and when you get on stage and you play it for people and you see their reactions, it's it's an amazing feeling. There's no doubt about it. So I love writing songs. I think writing songs to me is the easiest part of the game. Playing songs, being on stage, all the travel is a lot more work, but very, very, very gratifying.
Well, and speaking of being on the road, now you've got a daughter that may be following in your footsteps.
I
how does
do.
your dad heart feel about that?
Man, I'm torn with all of that stuff because she's super talented and has a deep love for music. It started like me young. You know, she started
Mhm.
singing since she was in the cradle, and has just really, you know, given her whole heart to music. And you could tell when she's on stage singing, that she feels the same things I do when I'm on stage. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and also, you know, it's difficult to make your living in the music business. There's lots of rejection and lots of difficult choices to be made, and there's lots easier ways to make money. That's true. You know, there, if she wanted to be rich, there's other ways to get rich, much easier ways to get rich. Because I've never gotten rich here, but I love doing what I do. And so with every career choice that you have, there's pitfalls, man. I think the what I've come to, the answer I've
Mhm.
come to with all of it, with all my concerns and everything else, are chase your dreams, go after what you love, because I think not chasing your dreams maybe, and having those regrets might be the worst choice you could make. I think having regrets at the end of your life and going, man, I wish that I'd have done that, is worse than, you know, than the other outcome.
Absolutely. Well, I know, it was pretty hard to be a musician in COVID because nobody could do anything, but you
I didn't have a
actually took
job for
to
2 years, girl.
yeah, but you did good. You took the opportunity to kind of go to your social media places
Yeah.
and do some covers and requests of different things. So
Yep.
when you're out there performing, I know you love singing your own stuff, but how much fun is it to do like some of the favorite bands and songs that you've
Oh,
enjoyed listening to for covers?
I love it. I love doing covers. You know, the funniest thing, I look at my Spotify, and the second biggest song on my Spotify, most streamed song on my Spotify, is my cover of Night Moves,
Mhm.
which I've been covering for years, and people love that version. So I released this acoustic version of it, and it gets streamed like tens of thousands of times a month. It's crazy. So I love doing them. It's also, it gets you out of your head as a songwriter, you know, and
Sure.
lets you experiment with other things, and maybe opens you up to other possibilities of things that, you know, that you wouldn't necessarily get a chance to say or to sing, because that's the great thing about songs that you love. There's amazing songs out there, and get your version of it, just like Texas Hold'em. Nobody, including me, would have ever thought that people would have reacted to my version of Texas Hold'em the way they have, but here we are.
Well, speaking of reactions, how are you able to kind of guard your heart with everything being so instant now? You put something up on the internet and you're immediately loved or hated right off the bat. And that's what everybody's doing now. There's so many artists that get famous on TikTok without
Oh yeah,
record deals just because they become, this
yeah.
huge song on the internet. So, how do you kind of gauge those things going forward as an artist?
You know, instant fame is a blessing and a curse. Most of the people that you see that blow up on TikTok and have never were never heard from before, are never heard from again after they blow up too. Because
Right.
blowing up once and going viral once is amazing, but the follow up is difficult. You
Sure.
know, and it's, even if the music is great, it doesn't mean that the uh the th- the events that led up to you going viral will happen for you again.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that the algorithm is gonna feed that to as many millions of people as it did the first time you did it. And so it's dangerous for a career. It's really hard to see how that becomes a viable business choice. You really have to, I think, build strong roots in this business in order to survive. Just Got Started Loving You was really great for me, but that was many years ago, right?
Mhm.
But I've never had to have a job in the last 25 years outside of the music business, because I built my life and my roots here in Nashville, and I do a lot of other things other than just artistry. I produce other artists, I write for other artists, and I do a lot of different things that have helped sustain my career and give me longevity in this business. And you may not think I'm a household name, or they may not out there, but I've in town, everybody knows me. I've been, it's
Yeah.
like a large high school here. And so I feel really blessed to be able to do what I love every day for a living. And doing this was never about money. But I'm able to put food on my family's table and pay our mortgage and keep us living fairly comfortably for years and years doing just what I love, and that's ultimately my goal.
Well, you sound like a farmer now.
Well, that is kind of the farm life, right? I mean, it's about you're not a farmer anymore unless you love it, because
Absolutely.
it's just too damn hard, man.
Yeah.
It's too hard to do day in, day out for the kind of money. If you were getting rich, then it may make more sense. But farmers do what they love for the passion of doing what they love and try to put food on their table for their families. So same, yeah.
Well, speaking of doing what you love, new album coming out. So when can we expect all this new music?
Okay, well, so we are on a release schedule of every 8 weeks. We're going to be dropping new music. I
Okay.
think we're about 4 or 5 weeks into this song right now. So in another 4 weeks, you're going to get another song. The first single off of the record is called Out of the Blue. I've been playing this song live for a couple of years now. It's one of my favorite songs that is in my repertoire at the moment, and the crowd favorite song. It's something I love. It follows in the footsteps of the country soul thing that I've been doing for the longest time. This whole album is a country soul album. And also I have a show in town called James Otto's Country Soul Sessions,
Okay.
where I highlight and spotlight other artists that are doing that kind of thing. We had Drake White and Adam Hood and all kinds of other folks stepping out and kind of showing their soulful roots and explaining that country soul has been a thing for a long time. It started many years ago, and now you still have artists like me and Stapleton and Drake and Adam Hood and a whole bunch of others that are kind of following in those footsteps.
Well, so we can expect that, but where do we find everything? Where can our
You're
listeners
going to
go and find
find it
everything?
all at first off. You can go to my website, jamesotto.net. And then
Thank you.
also just follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the places. I run all my own social media. For better or for worse, it's me doing it all. So yeah, follow me and send me a message, man. I'd love to talk to y'all, and I'd love for y'all to hear the new music and see what you think.
All right, James Otto. Thank you so much for visiting with us today.
Thank you, Casey.